Jenna, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. How are you?
Really good. This light is like really
Awesome.
bright. I didn't realize how bright my light was gonna be.
Yeah.
I have fluorescence. I'm actually in my studio right now. It's a complete mess, as you can
Yeah.
see. So the lighting
That
down
was
here is
cool.
really crazy bright for me to make my jewelry.
Yeah. No, but that's cool. I
So
love the
anyway,
whole setup behind you. Yeah.
thank
Yeah,
you.
well, yeah, really, like you need your space, and so for something like that to be able to do it all is just awesome. So, yeah, have you
Yeah,
always
thank
had a keen interest in crafts and jewelry and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. I was always really creative as a child, always making things, and I spent a lot of time with my grandmother growing up, and she had a sewing business actually. So I got to see a little bit of entrepreneurship and what she was doing in her business. I didn't realize and know that it was entrepreneurship, but I had
Yep.
exposure to that and helping her with her business. And I did a little bit of art projects like painting and sculpture and things like that, and always wanted to be working with my hands. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, thanks to everyone tuning in. Hi, Franz. So if you are tuning in, we'd love to hear from you. If you're on the replay as well, so if you have any questions for later, if you could just drop hashtag replay, because we'd love to hear that you watched it. And then also, if you've got any questions, you can get tagged later on for notifications. So Jenna, I mean that's really cool. I mean, because especially if as a child, you always had a keen interest in being creative, and then you've turned that into a business. So now you can really do what you love. So I think that's really cool.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I never, well, I had a corporate job. I worked for someone else for 12 years. I had a pretty good corporate job in human resources, and
Yep.
I didn't like it. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I feel like I fundamentally have like a problem with authority and working for
Okay. Yep.
someone else. That
That's fair
sounds
enough.
so bad, but you just I
We
think
all have
all of
that.
us,
Yeah.
if we're here, in this community and interested in entrepreneurship, we kind of have that tendency to want to be doing our own thing, be independent, make our own decisions and form our own I guess make your own choices and be responsible for that on your own. So I
Yeah.
definitely have
Absolutely.
that tendency. So it's really exciting to be doing this full time now.
Yeah. Fantastic. And how did that come about? So what you're in a corporate job, and then from there you want to start your own business, or is it that you had a side hustle for a few years and then that kind of developed into full time?
Yeah, exactly. So I was always kind of creative in making things, as I mentioned, and I it was really a kind of a catalyst for it. I was making jewelry on my own at home, but I went through a divorce in
Yep. Oh,
2009
sorry to
and
hear. Yep.
2010. And that, well, it's kind of something that, it makes room for other things in your life. Like,
Of course.
even though it's a
Yeah.
bad experience, I think a lot of people have similar experiences where you have some kind of catalyst, something that's negative in your life that makes room for so much more positivity to come. So,
Yeah.
so that happened, and I was making jewelry, and I had people tell me, well, why don't you sell that at the farmers market? And there was a farmers market in my around my hometown in Peoria, Illinois,
Yep.
um, where you could go and sell. There's lots of farmers market type stuff like vegetables and produce, things like that. But they
Yeah.
also had handmade arts and crafts things. So I started selling there for a little bit of money, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of see that I could make money off of it. And that was about 2010. And I had people, I don't remember if it was one exact specific thing, but or situation, but I had
Yeah.
many people say, are you selling on Etsy? Why don't you sell on Etsy? I kept hearing about Etsy. And so it was the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. I started looking into selling on Etsy, and I had been at my job from I started working there in 2005. So I was about five or
Yeah.
6 years into my corporate human resources job and started selling
Yep.
on Etsy. And it was really slow at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I go back and I look at some of my pictures. Even now, my photography needs work, but you can always be improving. But
Of
I
course,
go
yeah.
back and I think, how did I sell stuff at that point in time?
Yeah.
Like, why did people buy things from me? But they were. So I
Yeah,
had
that's
a
cool. Yeah.
side hustle for it was almost 5 years of selling on
Okay.
Etsy and selling at craft shows and art shows and things like that. Um, and just e-commerce and also in-person sales. But it took a good solid 5 years, maybe about 5.5, before I was to the point of being able to quit my job. And it was really hard to make that jump, that leap. And I was
Yep.
actually pretty lucky in that when I turned in my notice, it was August of 2016, and they accepted my notice at first, that I was quitting. And then my
Yep.
boss asked me to talk to me a little bit more about it and see what I was doing. Because at first, I think he thought I was going to another company.
Oh,
So I
okay.
told him a
Yeah.
little bit about what I was doing. He didn't really know much about my private life. So
Yeah.
um, he kind of asked me a little bit about it, and I explained what I was doing. And I mean, he just thought I was completely crazy. You could tell the look on someone's face when they're like,
Yeah.
you're quitting your corporate job of 12 years that's has security, and you're going to go make jewelry and sell it on the internet. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? So
Yeah. But I mean,
but
that's
he
the
actually
the
offered.
9 to 5 mentality, really.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't really get it at all, but he did say, um, why don't you stay on as a consultant for us, and you can train the new people who come in, whoever's your replacement, and then any potential other people on the team, you can
Oh, that's
train
great.
them
Okay.
and work
Yeah.
part-time. And he actually said at the time, in case your jewelry doesn't work out, you can still have a
Oh,
connection
geez. Okay.
here,
Yeah.
at the company. So, but it was nice because even though he didn't seem to have much faith in me and my jewelry business, it was nice to have that for a few more months. I stayed on as a consultant and
That
had a
would have
little
been
bit of
good.
income.
Yeah.
So it made the transition really easy, for me, because so if you have that and you're thinking about quitting your job, I think potentially asking, if you can do part-time or
Yep.
consultant basis type of work makes that transition really easy. So you still got a little bit of income from that corporate job or your day job, and then that you know that you can do it. I guess it makes it
Yeah. Yeah,
a much
absolutely.
smoother transition.
Definitely. Because I mean,
So that's
everyone's
how
talking about,
that's
oh,
how it
jump
happened.
in and yeah, exactly. And that's it. It's all about, people say jump in and all this sort of thing. And I did jump in the deep end, but,
Oh, you
I
did.
planned ahead. I planned ahead.
Hmm.
It's something that I tried to have a full-time job and then side hustles and they weren't working. So I was like, well, look, I've already,
Hmm.
by auditing myself, I know what isn't working. So now my option is to jump all in. But, to have some
Yeah.
security there is really good. Like I handle stress very well. So for me, not having security wasn't a big deal. Like it is, but
Hmm.
mentally it's not or wasn't at the time. So it's one of those things. But to be able to have a part-time job or a casual job whilst you're transitioning, I think is so important to really test
Yeah.
the waters to see what's going to work for you, and what you can really cope with, because mental health is so
Yes.
important, especially when you're making such a large life transitioning change. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
awesome that they offer
And
that
I had
support. Yeah.
yeah, and I had so many people in my life, family and friends being like, "What are you doing?" So they were happy that I still kept on part-time, but I almost felt like, I felt like I was suffocating working in a corporate job. I felt like
Yeah.
I wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing, and it was it made the transition easier, but I still kind of felt like, oh gosh, I still have to work for them. I still have to do this. But eventually it got to the point where I was like, I can't continue this because
Yeah.
I had to actually, they wanted me to continue to still keep working, and I had to say, sorry, we have to end this, working relationship because I have so much business right now. I can't keep up with it, and I can't continue to be here. So that was exciting. It was nice to be able to
Yeah.
say that. So
That's
that's
cool.
how it
Yeah. No,
happened.
that's cool. Yeah. Nice. Because we've had a few people jump on. Franz has said,
Oh yeah,
he
are people
agrees, and
asking questions?
um, Yeah, Rob asked for your Etsy site, your store. So later on, if you're able to drop all your links, we can do that.
Yeah,
Unless
I
if
can
you
put
now
the
sell on
link
your
in.
website, we can do that. Absolutely. So yeah, Franz,
Yeah.
I agree. Came from a really hard breakup, and that was the catalyst I used, which is awesome. Drew says hello, hey Drew. And then man says, when I was laid off, I had no warning, no severance, and I was always burned
Oh,
out
wow.
from going over a year. Yeah, man, I'm so sorry to hear that. Um, but let's have a look if I can open this whole thing. Over time that my family almost okay, so yeah, she was working so much though, so it's in some cases, if your family forgets what you look like, then
Yeah.
it's good to have more of a work-life balance. So yeah, I mean, Jenna, that's really cool in everything. So from, I guess, from there, so when you did start selling, you were getting so much business, was that purely from Etsy at the time?
Yeah, Etsy was a big market for me. And I come across people online in different groups and things that have a lot of negative stuff to say about Etsy, and that they
Yep.
take a large cut of your profit, and that they're greedy, or that people have had bad experiences. And really, that hasn't been my experience at all. I mean, Etsy's there to make money. They want you to sell because they're making
Yep.
money off of your
Exactly.
success. And I've had a really positive experience with Etsy. They're a business. They're trying to make money just like we are. So I feel like you kind of have to have that business mindset. I think I'm lucky in that I'm like half business and half creative. So I enjoy
Yep.
the business just as much as I enjoy selling. I enjoy marketing, just as much as the creative process also. So I'd say if you're a creative entrepreneur, you have to have that business hat that you can put on. But anyway, going back to the question, yeah, Etsy
Yeah.
was what really made. Sorry, I got off track there a little bit,
No,
but
no, it's all
Etsy's
good.
the thing
That's what
that
it's for. It's just a chat. Just it's fun.
that's great. That's good. So yeah, Etsy. Now it's kind of transition that Etsy's not really my big money maker for me. It's I still get
Yep.
quite a bit of traffic from it, and sales each week. But Amazon has really been my thing lately. That's been a big
Okay.
traffic place for me. It's just a larger marketplace. So, but Etsy has so much built in of people that are looking for handmade goods. I mean, that's the number one handmade marketplace online. I think handmade at Amazon is slowly taking over that also, but for now, people are so familiar with Etsy as a brand that they're going there to get handmade, personalized, custom gifts or things for themselves. And it's got so much of a built-in community and exposure
Yeah.
of I could never generate that on my own, or I'd have to pay so much in advertisements, um, that it's just so nice to have that built-in community
Yeah.
to
Excellent.
sell
That's the
to.
thing.
So
Yeah, and that support there is so important because Amazon is a business too. They want to make money, and really it's a case of if you can sell your stuff on there, then they're going to want you to do that even more. So, and the fact that you've got it there in front of you is just awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. So I guess, well, from there, like, how did you really transition? Because you've got some pieces of jewelry or whatever else it may be in department stores. I think that's really interesting. How did that all come about?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually applied to do well. Oh, let's see what happened first. Um, I started selling in a couple local shops around my hometown, and I started doing that as consignment. So, if you're
Yep.
not familiar with consignment, you put a whole bunch of stuff at a store, and they take a cut of it. But the bad thing about consignment, I mean, it gets you exposure, it gets you sales, it generates income for you. But the bad point is that you've got all this inventory tied up at a location that doesn't belong to you.
Yep.
So I started doing that, working with consignment, and having your store on Etsy and Amazon. Yeah, diversify for sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Sorry, I got off track reading the comments.
That's cool.
Yeah, if I was only on Etsy right now, I'd be in trouble because my Etsy store is not performing as well right now.
Oh, okay.
I know I need to work on my photography. I need to work on refreshing some of my SEO because Etsy's gone through some updates and changes. But I think that's worth saying is that if I didn't have department stores and wholesale accounts and Etsy and Amazon and all these different income streams. I also teach jewelry making classes as well.
Cool. Yeah.
So if I didn't have all that, I'd be worried to put all my eggs in one basket, really. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but how I got started with the department store situation is that I started with consignment, did that for several years, and really finally learned about wholesale opportunities and cut of a profit. So I really had to do a lot of adjustment to have that built in order to prepare for wholesale, just because they take such a large cut. And I started, Etsy came out with a program actually that's called Etsy Wholesale. So I started selling through Etsy Wholesale. You have to apply and say who you're currently working with and if you've done consignment or wholesale and things like that. So I started doing Etsy Wholesale, and that kind of helped me get my feet wet, I guess, with learning about wholesale and the terminologies and the pricing structure and things like that. And then an opportunity came up early last year, 2017, a program with a department store in the U.S. It's called Bon-Ton, is the parent company. Okay. And they've got stores. I don't know if you're familiar with Bon-Ton, but they have stores like Carson's and Carson's. So, sorry, I'm getting notifications. I got to turn those off.
That's cool.
So anyway, they had this program where they're trying to include local makers and artists and things like that. It's called the Close to Home program. So it's something that they had an open call for artists. I felt like I wasn't ready. I felt like there's no way they would like my products, like negative self-talk.
Just the mindset. Yeah.
And then I learned about all these different requirements. I started going through the paperwork. I requested more information, and I got this whole big packet of stuff that I had to have in place. And it had a little bit about the insurance that I needed and just all these different requirements that I did not have. So I started going through this checklist, and I had about 30 days to prepare and present my items. And I actually waited because I was going back and forth like, I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm doing. And so it took me a while to get prepared. And then it ended up being the very last day of the open call of the deadline. And I finally submitted everything at I don't know, it was like 9 or 10 p.m., like 2 hours before the final cutoff. And I should have waited so long, but I just was so nervous and kind of doubting myself. But anyway, so I didn't hear back from them for a long time, and I didn't think that I had gotten in. And they contacted me, and we started talking about volume and that kind of thing. And they ended up ordering, their first order from me was for 1,200 pieces for 30 different department stores in the U.S. So, and with me making stuff myself, I was just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get this done? And I had 4 weeks to get it all completed and shipped, packaged, shipped, everything. Wow. So I'd say if anybody's kind of feeling like they're not ready for something, just go for it, and you can figure it out. Because I didn't think I didn't think I could do it. And I had to get all new retail packaging because they had a lot of requirements about things that have to be able to hang in the store. And I didn't have anything like that of hangers and different plastic packaging and things like that they required. So I had to scramble to get all of that done. And it really, really challenged me and made me ready to be able to do that for other opportunities. So I'm planning on trying to get in other department stores this year. Yeah,
that's awesome. No, congratulations.
So that's that story. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when it was that they needed 1,200 pieces, so did you get some help for that, or did you make them all yourself within the few weeks, or?
Yeah, I had to get help. So I had another point is that at that point in time, my fiance and I moved in together. The week that I got approved
Okay.
for and got this purchase order, it all
Yeah.
happened in the same week. So I was moving all of this stuff around me. I was moving my whole studio, my house, everything, and also trying to order materials and supplies and figure out who
Yeah.
was going to help me do this. So um, his family actually helped me quite a bit. My mom helped me, and
Cool.
then my fiance's family ended up helping quite a bit too.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was really fun. I don't know how it works for you in Australia, but here it's better for me to have them on as an independent contractor rather than an official employee. So I had to also learn a lot about that, all kind of
Okay.
at the
Yeah.
last minute, and how we were going to track their hours and scheduling, and it was really
Yeah.
nuts for a few weeks there.
That's fair enough. Yeah, independent contractors are definitely the better way to go if it's for a short-term thing over here in Australia.
Yes.
But if you have them long-term, then even if they are an independent contractor, the government will then look upon it and say, all right, well, they are an employee. If they're doing 40 hours a week for you, then you have to start paying
Yeah.
them benefits, start putting away their superannuation, things like that. Whereas if it's a short-term thing, then yeah, they're great. Like they're the best way to go for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's so same kind of situation with me. Like, I don't have guaranteed hours or know what kind of workload I'm gonna have. So it's kind of just now I have people on call as
Yeah,
needed.
cool.
So,
Yeah, oh,
and
that's
then
awesome.
shortly after that, I actually put an ad on Indeed and had a worker that, because up until that point, everybody, I knew everybody, like friend of a friend or family member or something like that, that was working for me. But I
Cool.
ended up actually hiring someone that I didn't know last fall to come on as an independent contractor too. So she's also on call. So that was an exciting kind of expansion for my business.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Yeah, that is exciting. Well, congratulations on the progress. It sounds like it's all
Thanks.
going really well. There's
Yeah,
Rob
thank you.
before he googled, so for jewelry top ranked places to sell are, and I think he means in order. So it's Etsy, eBay, Artfire, and then Bonanza. And you mentioned Bonanza
Yeah,
before, Jenna. So yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. And also there's another website too called Rebels Market that I used to sell on. It's kind of like I don't sell on there anymore because I feel like I'm doing more mainstream stuff right now. But Rebels
Yeah.
Market is one I would recommend if anybody has something that's very unique. Rebels Market is um, I don't know how to describe it. Like they've got like a lot of gothic stuff and kind of
Okay.
alternative clothing and accessories. So
Yep.
kind of edgier pieces. So that's another marketplace that I would recommend if you're
Yeah.
shopping
Cool.
too, if you're looking for something.
Yeah. Nice. So, Jenna, I'd love to hear about with you getting some jewelry in the Oscars. I think that would be a really interesting story to go through.
Yeah, so I work with a promotional PR group. It's called the Artisan Group, and I found them
Yep.
online. Also on Etsy, I noticed I kept seeing people were working with this thing called the Artisan Group, and they help with placing jewelry in TV shows,
Okay.
and they work with stylists in Hollywood for different movies and TV shows, and then they also do gifting suites at the Oscars and Golden Globes and awards shows, things like that. So, so I just recently had a pair of my earrings in a Oscars swag bag that the celebrities and VIPs and press got
Yeah.
it's like a
Fantastic.
pre-Oscars party. So,
Yeah.
and that was working directly with them. So it's something that I had to pay for. It's a
Yep.
membership that I pay for, and then you pay to be able to have the opportunity of your products in the bag. And then of course I'm paying for the materials and time to make that stuff. But I definitely think it was a
Yep.
good investment. I've already got some press out of it and a
Cool.
lot of sales from that.
Fantastic.
So pretty
Yeah.
excited about that. And
Yeah,
then I
definitely.
also just
Yeah.
got, oh, what were we going to say? Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, like it's an investment. Like that's phenomenal. Like sometimes you've got to put it up front, but then from there you get returns later on. I think the return on investment for that can be quite generous, just especially if you're working with PR companies, and in essence it's going to PR hands. I think it definitely can be a really promising investment.
Yeah. So it's quite a bit upfront, but I think it's definitely been worth it for me, especially just the sales over the past weekend. And then I was featured in a couple local newspapers here and
Cool.
online also. So that did quite a bit for my business also. I've had a lot of activity on my website this weekend.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
then, and I also just had, because I didn't mention this before to you, but I just had, are you familiar with the TV show Arrow?
Rings a
Do you know
bell,
Arrow?
but not really.
Okay,
I
it's like a comic spin-off thing of the Green Arrow comic.
okay.
So it's on the CW, and I submitted my jewelry for that, and one of my necklaces was just worn on Arrow too. So
Oh, cool.
that was through that company working with
Yeah,
them.
wow. Oh, is that the one where he's on an island and then he comes back and he's some sort of like ninja with a bow and arrow?
In the first season, yeah, he was on an island. Yep. So that's kind of
Yeah, okay.
cool,
Yeah,
you
I know the
know.
one.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that is really
So
cool. Yeah.
I hope to get on some more. I've recently submitted to a few more TV shows, but I haven't heard back yet whether or not the stylist is going to pick them yet. So,
Yep. Yeah. No, cool. Amanda's left a comment about Arrow. She goes, they need a tech consultant whenever Curtis and Felicity talk about techie stuff on a bunch of people. Oh, that's
that's
great.
hilarious.
That is great. But yeah, actually, yeah, now that I think about it, I watched the first season, I think like season and a half. Yeah, I quite liked it. I mean, for me to give a
Yeah.
season and a half of a TV show, that's props. So,
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
so it was on the character Felicity. She wore my necklace of mine. So that's pretty
yeah,
exciting.
that's really cool. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. So, Jenna, I guess just with everything we've gone through, like you offer some really interesting stories there and some value in regards to how you got your jewelry on Etsy and how you got it into the hands of pre-party bags for the Oscars and things like that, which I think a lot of people listening in that do sell crafts and things like that can leverage, which is phenomenal. How do people get in touch with you, say, or how do they get in touch with your business so they can look at your jewelry and do a bit of shopping and buy from you?
Yeah, so my main website is jennascifres.com, and I can put a link in the comments when we're done.
Great, thank you. Yep,
And yeah, and then I am also, of course, on Etsy. It's just my name, Jenna Scifres,
yep,
and on Amazon, Handmade at Amazon is also Jenna Scifres. So everything's just that.
cool.
And
Yep.
if anybody wants to email me, it's jenna@jennascifres.com.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
Oh, Amanda said Felicity always has awesome fashion. That's good because then that means my jewelry's in style.
Yeah. Nice. And then Rob says free samples are appreciated.
Free samples are appreciated. All right, I'll keep that in mind, Rob. I don't
And
make
then yeah.
I don't make much guy jewelry, so that's something I kind of want to break into a little bit more this year is making some like a men's line.
I'm sure it'd be for Rob's wife anyway, so it's yeah,
Oh,
no
okay.
stress there. But for everyone at home, so to spell ciphers, it's Scifres. Just
Yep,
so for
great
everyone at
job.
home. Yeah, I wrote it down. So yeah, no,
Perfect.
awesome.